If you are new to film street photography, there is a fundamental skill that you need to master, and this video is about that. The skill that you have to master is learning how to measure your exposure correctly. But the challenge is that in street photography we are looking for candid moments or spontaneous instants. So this one happened in a blink of an eye. So you need to make sure that you have your camera settings right to get that right exposure. So I'm going to show you normally what approach I follow to be successful 95% of the time. The way your camera measures the light is by reflection. That means that the light meter in your camera will measure the light that is reflected from your subject. But the tricky bit is that that amount of light depends on the color of the subject as well. So for example, if the subject is a light color or white, it will reflect more light as opposed to a black or a darker subject. So ideally, to nail the exposure correctly for most of the street photography, we would like to measure that reflection of the light from a gray background. But you might be wondering how to achieve this when you are out there walking on the streets. Well, what I normally do is to point my camera down because the road is already gray color, so that makes a perfect kind of place in between to measure the exposure. So I will normally be walking, I point into the floor and then adjust my settings according to what my camera sensor or light meter is telling me to do. And then I will just continue walking around, and whenever I see that candy shot, I will just shoot my camera. The other advantage of doing this approach of pointing into the ground, which is already gray color, is that sometimes if the sky is very bright, your camera will be exposing for the sky, and then your subjects on the street will tend to be a bit underexposed. So by doing this, you will make sure that you're actually exposing for the people on the street, which is our main focus when we're doing street photography. And if your camera light meter doesn't work anymore, which is very common for these very old analog cameras, and you have a handheld light meter like the one I have here, then I will do the same approach. I will be walking around, and whenever I want to measure exposure, I will just point my light meter down into the road, take my measurement and put those settings into my camera and then walk around. When you apply this tip, just make sure that you are mindful about the lighting conditions changing. So for example, if it's a bright day and you have very sharp light coming on you, do that, measure and see what your light meter is telling you for those lighting conditions. But if there is a cloud passing and it becomes a bit less bright, or maybe it becomes cloudy or there are some shadows, again, take your light meter and point down to those conditions. And do this as often as you can. And if you keep the same ISO film and your same camera, after some time of practicing this, you will be able to eyeball more or less what exposure to use based on the light conditions, and then you will be on your way on becoming an expert in shooting film street photography. And there you have it, my friends. That's how I measure the exposure for my film street photography. If you ever see me walking in the streets of London, or for example in Oxford like today, you will see that I will be often pointing my light meter or my camera to the road to get my exposure readings right. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something and it was beneficial for you. And please share it to some of your film photographer friends if you think they can benefit from it. Also hit the like button, that really helps to get this video to more people and it helps the channel as well. And before I go, I will just leave you with some of my film street photos that I have taken in the past few months. And as I said, I normally nail the exposure 95% of the time using this method. Enjoy, take care, and keep shooting.